Worldwide Hippies presents Hippie News and Stuff with Winston Smith and the Worldwide Hippies News team.
Welcome to Hippie TV News and Stuff, brought to you by WorldwideHippies.com, your website for news and information beyond the corporate control. I am Winston Smith. Amnesty International celebrates wrist slap or fanny pat for Wells Fargo Wachovia, mob attack in Congress. P.E. Nolan will be here with a report, asshole of the week, and more. But first, our top story, Japan. What citizens of the world are witnessing is the cabal between governments, corporations, and media to keep the truth about the worst nuclear disaster from the public. Misinformation, half-truths, and out-and-out lies are what we are getting. Greenpeace called on Japanese authorities last week to disclose all information available about radiation levels near the Fukushima plant. Quote, "It's not enough for authorities to keep putting band-aids on each problem as it appears," end quote. Here is a report from Greenpeace.
What is clear is that seafood in that area, it's a large area, over 200 kilometers, 100 north, 100 south of the nuclear power plant, which are not fit for consumption. We also find high levels of cesium, which is a longer living isotope, and could even pose a risk many years from now.
A few facts to keep in mind. Melting fuel rods just don't stop burning on their own for centuries or longer. Contaminated seaweed is now part of the food chain in the Pacific, and fish migration will bring it to your table. The U.S. is silent about fallout that is covering the whole continent, and the seemingly endless rains across the states this spring are carrying radioactive particles that end up in groundwater used for food production and drinking. President G.W. Obama signed into law last week a 4-year extension of the suspension of the Constitution referred to as the Patriot Act. Along with the War Powers Act last month, this now assures that constant state of war is what we will be in, and no rights for non-corporate persons is the New World Order. As it was laid out in the Statement of Principles for a Project for a New American Century, agreed to by world leaders in 1997. Google it, but use your neighbor's computer. Safety first, hippies. This from APP. Amnesty International, the global human rights watchdog, marks its 50th anniversary last Saturday with the launch of a global call to action. This is designed to help tip the scales against repression and injustice. Fed drug war a farce? According to Lynn Washington, Op-Ed News, one of the biggest entities busted by the feds for involvement in a drug trafficking ring last year received an unusual wrist slap deal from the federal prosecutors, resulting in no prison time. So what is this entity that federal prosecutors found worthy of a big break for its laundering billions and facilitating tons of cocaine trafficking? Well, meet Wachovia, once the nation's 6th largest bank. A too big to fail bank that for the feds is also apparently too big to jail. Wachovia recently completed what amounted to a year-long probation arising from a March 2010 settlement deal with federal prosecutors who were pursuing criminal proceedings against Wachovia for its facilitating illegal money transfers from Mexico totaling $378 billion. Billions traced directly to violent drug cartels in Mexico. Fines slapped on Wachovia under terms of that settlement deal included a $50 million assessment for failing to monitor cash used to ship 22 tons of cocaine. Last year, close to 800,000 persons were held in prisons in the U.S. for marijuana, some doing time for just a joint, while corporations, some with ties to Wells Fargo, the new owner of Wachovia, made billions of dollars from the private prison industry.
After the news at the top of the hour, we will take a look at some of the traffic.
And here is P.E. Nolan. Kids engaged in civil disobedience against the Koch brothers?
Hi, Winston. Thanks. We all know about the Koch brothers, those right-wing extremists who have been throwing their personal fortune at America's democratic institutions so they can set up their own corporate plutocracy. Well, Youth for Climate Change has pumped the Koch brothers. Last December, the environmental activist issued a fake press release, apparently from the conglomerate itself, declaring that the Koch brothers would no longer oppose regulations of greenhouse emissions, but would instead start supporting climate change science. When the teabagging billionaires heard about this press release, they hurled a lawsuit at the environmentalists, claiming everything from financial harm to trademark infringement. The message was clear. They fucked with the Kochs and were going to be buried under impossible legal fees. That's when Public Citizen stepped in to defend the youth. Public Citizen has been around for 40 years now, making sure all of us have a voice in Washington, D.C. Their lawyers went head-to-head with the Kochs in Utah federal court, and on May 9th, Judge Dale Kimball dismissed all of the coked-up charges. The civil disobedience from Youth for Climate Truth was protected under the First Amendment right of freedom of speech. That's all of our right, the First Amendment, freedom of speech. So this time, the good guys win. Back to you, Winston.
Thanks, Trisha. Great stuff. You can see P.E. Nolan each Monday here on Hippie TV News. Oh, and it's time for Worldwide Hippies Asshole of the Week. And this week it goes to both chambers of Congress for applauding the beating of Ray Abalea by IPAC members after she interrupted Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress on last Tuesday morning. The 28-year-old yelled, "No more occupation, stop Israel war crimes, equal rights for Palestinians, occupation is indefensible." Ironically, she yelled out just as Mr. Netanyahu was praising young protesters in Tunisia and Egypt who had spoken out against their governments. As some people in the gallery bearing AIPAC badges rushed to the woman and tackled her to the ground and beat her, the Congress, senators, and House members alike rose to their feet and gave Mr. Netan "What the fuck are you, Yahoo?" an extended standing ovation, one of about 25 standing ovations they gave the Israeli Prime Minister during his speech, as the woman was dragged from the chamber.
And I did not expect that people holding such power and representing such a huge lobby group would respond so violently to my peaceful disruption. And after I spoke out, Netanyahu said, you know, this is what's possible in a democracy, and you wouldn't be able to get away with this in other countries like Tunisia. And I think that is ridiculous and absurd. If this is what democracy looks like, that when you speak out for freedom and justice, you get tackled to the ground, you get physically violated and assaulted, and then you get hauled off to jail, that's not the kind of democracy that I think I want to live in.
Abalea was taken to George Washington University Hospital in Washington, D.C., where she is being treated for neck and shoulder injuries. Arrested and charged after she was hospitalized, she awaits her punishment while none of the assailants were charged. In fact, they were treated as heroes by our corrupt politicians. And for that, you congressmen and senators of the people of the United States, including us Gentiles, are worldwide hippies, assholes. Well, that's it for Hippie TV News this week. Please pass on this video and visit worldwidehippies.com for real news and information updated every 2 hours. And support independent media by making a donation to Worldwide Hippies on our website or visit our store there so we can keep up the howl for peace and justice. And we will see you here next Monday.